Hi, everyone. I'm Rejoice. Today on Umatta Consultant Podcast, we have a special privilege to interview Nomiki, founder and CEO of Fiona. As a tech founder, Nomiki is revolutionizing access for women in the tech entrepreneurship and reshaping the future of work. We will dive into her innovative approach in breaking barriers and also creating new opportunities for women in the tech industry. At this particular time, I would love for her to introduce herself, and then we'll go right into the questions.
Anyways, I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Nomiki. I am the founder of PDS Lab, a tech accelerator for women, and Theana, a tech platform exclusively for women and tech entrepreneurship at the very early stages of business. So just a brief background on me. I've been in tech for around 15 years, working in product roles, design, strategy, at the 0 to 1 stage of businesses. I've been across a lot of different sectors in financial technology, artificial intelligence, healthcare, women's health, you name it, I've probably dabbled in it. I've been an entrepreneur for many years now. Theana is my 5th business. And I'm really excited about it because, I'm 37 now, and it feels like I have finally found my calling and how I can use my skills for good. And it's extremely fueling. So I'm really appreciative to be here today and talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And I'm so excited to learn about your 5th business that you have started. So for our first question, we want to know what inspired you to start Theana?
So, little personal story. A couple years ago, my husband and I, we moved to Columbus, Ohio. We are now in central Columbus and we love it here. We were pregnant with our 4th child, and her name is Anna. Anna got really sick when she was early on, around 6 weeks of age. And that moment in life when we were in the hospital, it changed my perspective on everything. I don't want to talk about it because it gets me too emotional, but it changed how I think of what my life could be, what I could do as a mother, as a business person, as anything, and how I perceive opportunity. I came home from that hospital day and I quit my job. I was the head of product at an AI company. I loved my job. I loved it. I was building a really hard product. They have now raised over $6 million in funding and they're off to the races. I was working with the most intelligent people I've ever met. It was extremely challenging, but also fulfilling. But there was one missing piece. It wasn't mine. And while I had equity in that business, and I still do, it still told me I'm holding myself back. I knew I was meant to do more. So I left that, and I was very thankful to have really awesome leaders that supported me because I was still on maternity leave, and they paid the rest of my leave and that let me consult while I got my feet on the ground to start my businesses. So a little fast track from there, I started a business called PDS Lab. It's a tech accelerator for women at the idea stage. I started that business because I recognized that there was a huge gap between men and women generally in the tech ecosystem that had ideas and their ability or access to resources to build a tech product. There's a ton of bias, discrimination, you name it, it's there. Women have less opportunity. So I started the lab to really bring that to the forefront and teach people what I knew because I've had, thankfully, a lot of success in that industry. The accelerator is doing awesome. I've met so many incredible women. People have launched their businesses. It's growing month over month. I'm really proud of that business and its impact in the industry so far. But there was a problem. I had to turn down a lot of work because it wasn't the perfect fit for so many people. I was meeting with hundreds of people every month talking about, what we're doing. And they kept saying, they shared, this is not a good fit for me right now because maybe they're a little ahead, but they still wanted that network and the resources. How could I give that to them? Well, I'm only one person. So, but that still didn't sit well with me. So one day in September, it was September 16th, actually, it came to me. I was driving my kids to school and I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I know what it is. And I realized in that moment, I've been synthesizing data in the accelerator and all my conversations at a macro and micro level to determine what the problems were. And access doesn't just mean access to funding. It means access to the resources, the networks, the education, the data to help them drive their businesses forward or even start them from scratch. So Theana is really a conception from all of that learning of how do I give more access to women at the early stages of business? People always ask me what if I'm reaching, $1 million, $2 million in revenue. To be honest, you're not a good fit for me because I'm really good at the building part.
Gotcha.
Zero to a million is where my sweet spot is. And then I kind of lose interest because I like to build. And really at that stage, you have to go all in. You have to try anything. I'm pretty ballsy. So I think that's why I like it. I'm impulsive. And I think that's helped me, right?
Right.
So my whole thing is how can I help more women build money-making machines in tech
Exactly.
specifically? And so that's what Theon is going to do after all of this learning. And it's a sister company to the lab. And
Right.
I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited to
Amazing.
launch it.
Amazing story. I love hearing everything about it, and I can sense the emotions behind your vision, and that's so important for
Thank you,
listeners to
Rejoice.
hear. For us, we're also curious. Can you share your journey as a tech founder and the challenges you faced along the way as you were sort of building?
Yeah. So I'm sort of privileged in the sense that I've been working with developers for a really long time. I've basically held any role except for an engineering role, and nor do I want to. But even though I know how to work the system, I know how to problem solve, work with developers, there are always going to be gaps. Like
True.
even with my development team right now, we've launched the MVP to our beta users, but we're building out the knowledge base and the data insights that are coming in the next month or two so that we can then build the AI component. And with that, sometimes I'm like, here's the things that I need. Here are the designs. This is what I want it to look like and feel like, and they'll give me scopes and whatnot. I'm like, no, I wish I just had the skills to go develop it myself so that I can just test it faster. I think that's one of the biggest gaps is I have to wait for another team to build it for me. And I wish I had those skills. And I think a lot of people do as non-technical founders, they wish they could too, because no matter what, we have to spend money.
Right.
So right now I'm bootstrapped. I'm spending money that I'm making from my other businesses so that I can fund Theona and actually build the things that I really know are going to be helpful. So that's probably the biggest gap, though I am intentionally bootstrapped. I don't want to take in outside capital. I've been very privileged to have been offered angel investments, but doesn't make sense to me right now because I don't know. I haven't proven it yet. What if it fails? It could absolutely flop. Just because I'm good at this, it doesn't mean that I have a surefire way to success. So I would say that is my biggest gap right now is that I'm moving fast, but I really wish I was moving faster.
Amazing. And, going along with how fast you're moving, women in tech entrepreneurship face unique challenges, as you know, most better than anyone. What are the biggest obstacles you have seen and, how can they be resolved in your opinion?
I think one of the biggest things that everyone thinks is the issue is funding. And it absolutely is. Only 2% of venture capital goes to women. We know this. And if you're a minority, you're a Black woman, you even get less than white women do, right?
Right.
It is an absolute gap in the system that needs fixed. However, I really believe that if you're able to build a revenue generating business and learn how to build product and problem solve with that knowledge, you would be able to get that funding because you've proven it. So the funding is actually a little further advanced, but a lot of people with ideas think that's what they need. And it's not because you're not ready. So the biggest gap that I see is the ability to build product development, solve a problem with these skills, with technology that serves a very specific audience. My approach is, even in Theona, I don't have investor relations in there, and that's on purpose.
Gotcha.
It's a distraction. So if you build your business where it's getting money, like you're selling it and it's working for an audience, you're solving a problem.
Right.
I've seen it happen. Money will follow. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, a woman or man. It doesn't matter. Because if you're making money, guess what? People want to make money off of you.
Exactly.
So, of course, there is bias. Of course, like I'm not, saying that there's no bias to that. It is harder for us. We get asked different questions. But the biggest gap is truly building the product to prove there is a need. So do that first, and then money will follow.
Exactly. Awesome. I love that advice. Great germs. How does Theona specifically help women gain access to opportunities in tech?
So the first thing that we're doing is bare minimum. And the bare minimum is connecting women tech founders globally by stage, location, and industry.
Okay.
So the things that are missing right now in a lot of communities for women in entrepreneurship is the majority of them are focused on service providers or CPG founders, consumer packaged goods. The only women hold, I think, less than 10% of tech startups. Like we are, there's such a small amount of us. And because of that, there's not that many curated communities specifically for you. There are ones that say women building in women's health, women in financial services, women in VC, but that's a community. It's not a tech ecosystem. So that's the first thing we're doing is gathering everyone by the 4 stages of business: idea, launch, grow, and scale, location, states, all the states and global, different countries, and industry. So breaking it down into 25 industries so that we can have macro and micro communities. That's the first thing. It doesn't exist. The second thing is milestone tracking. So the bare minimum of milestone tracking is showing them these are the stages that, and based on the stage of business you're at, these are the milestones you need to hit. Everything that I'm doing is based on revenue. I want to teach women how to build a revenue generating business. So the milestones allow you to unlock different stages of business by hitting revenue targets.
Amazing.
So those are the 2 things that are bare minimum that we've launched already. Now, what's coming into it to help more women understand that is a knowledge base. So using knowledge bases that are based on specific frameworks. So market analysis, for example, or a customer discovery framework. We're breaking it down by data that supports why it's important, why this matters, step-by-step implementation, tools that you can use, like literally software. We're listing them out, telling you the pricing of them. We're also giving you the implementation in phases based on time constraint, how long it should take you, and additionally to some other resources. Those are then able to be turned into milestones so that you can act right then and there. And the reason we're doing this is because I am building a momentum field where we're going to give data, take all this data in from you. What milestones are you tracking? How long is it taking you to get there? What stage, location, and industry are you in? So we can serve back data to you to say, hey, Rejoice, if you're in healthcare at the idea stage, you are moving 3 times faster than all the other idea stage founders in healthcare right now because you've tackled these all milestones. So we're benchmarking you across the lot anonymously, of course, so that you know what you need to be doing next. And then we're going to pull in the AI component. So in a couple months, we're building this piece where in addition to that knowledge base, in addition to all the data that we're gathering, we're then going to personalize that journey. Hey, Rejoice, you're in healthcare at the idea stage. Do you need a financial model you created? We're going to do that for you because we already know all about your business. Click this button, prompt it right now, look at it, download the Excel sheet. We're going to give you those resources so that you can apply them. So the big thing that we're doing that a lot of companies are not doing right now, I have tons of competitors. What they're not doing is they're not marrying the data and the community. They're all separated. Honestly, because it's really hard. So I chose a really hard problem to solve, but it's a problem that I feel and see every day. That I'm like, how can I marry the two and hopefully create this third space for women tech founders where they can come to Thayana every morning with their coffee, get the latest news in tech, also understand what's on their top of the list that they need to be doing, see where they stand in data, take action. Everything I stand for is about taking action. So that's what really differentiates Thayana from what's out in the market today.
Amazing. I love everything you're describing and the resources you're offering. Do you foresee collaboration among other tech founders as they sort of are networking with each other, talking to each other? Maybe some of their problems
100%.
Maybe are a solution for one or the other.
So one of the most beautiful things about the accelerator that I created was the community. So there's, I think, 86 women in there right now.
Wow.
I have heard it's a small community, but I see them giving all of their intel, meaning they are so willing to share what tools they're using, what failures they've had, maybe co-founder breakups, advice on legal, things that they went through. Because they don't want to see any other woman fail. I've even had people reach out to me in the community and they'll come to me and say, hey, what is it about the lab that people are just sharing stuff? Like no other community is doing that. And I really believe it starts with me saying, I'm an open book. I will tell you anything. You want to know about money? I'll tell you about money. I don't care. How is anyone supposed to learn if I don't show them that it's okay to be healthy, competitive, to be able to share resources that we all can win? We're not competing one-on-one. And of course, there is competition, right? There's people that are competing directly or indirectly with one another. But so you get to choose what you want to share, but it's healthy. Right? The environment, if we create the environment where the competition is healthy, then everyone also follows suit. At least in my experience so far. We'll see what happens.
Amazing. Yeah. I know I saw on your LinkedIn post, you actually offer books to the people you onboard, which is amazing.
Yeah. So I do that because how many times have you joined a company and they're
Right.
like, here's some swag? Even my husband, he works for a larger organization,
Yeah.
$100 million in revenue organization. They're huge. They sent him a book bag, a notebook, a water bottle. And I'm like, this is junk. It has that logo all over it. I don't want that. So when I started to figure out, like, what do I want to give back? I realized that, the most important thing is they don't have access to these things. They don't even
Right.
know that these books exist because they're not in the ecosystem.
Right.
So I decided, you know what? I'm going to spend a few grand. I'm going to buy these books. The first 100 paying users are going to get one of these because
Wow.
they've helped, these two books specifically have helped me so much in my career that I know it's going to be an invaluable resource. So I opted for access to resources over swag, but hopefully swag will come one day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you're in the right direction. So amazing job doing that.
Thank you,
How do you
Rejoice.
see AI emerging technologies shaping the future of work for women in tech?
Productivity. That is the biggest thing. The biggest gap I see right now is using it to be productive, learning how to prompt the AI to help you excel faster. A lot of people that I see are using it, but they're not using it. They're not compounding their learnings to use it effectively so that they can come back to it day to day. That's what I actually want to solve in the AI component of Thayana is how do I show them proper prompting so that they can get the most value out of what they're trying to build. I also think there's a lot of competitors out there and they're not sure, like, they're nervous, frankly, because AI is scary and what do you feed it and what's it going to give back? Then it has my information, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really afraid of giving information. I think could be a downfall of mine in the future. But frankly, what do I have to lose? So I want to teach women how to use it effectively in their business as like a co-pilot, not as something that does things for them, but truly a thought partner so that you can challenge it and re-challenge you. There's always bias. Again, there's always bias. There's always going to be missed gaps. But if you can use it so that it empowers you to make faster decisions and to recognize, gaps or differentiation, that's going to benefit you in the long run. And it's going to be able to basically duplicate you in your work so that you can go faster.
I love that. I love the challenging the AI and the AI, vice versa, challenging you and so forth. I think that is a very innovative way of thinking about it. So thank
Me
you
and
for
Claude have a very intense relationship. I challenge it all the time, and then it challenges me. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Do that again. And sometimes he'll be like, right. Okay, prove it. Give me the link.
Exactly. That sounds amazing. Super amazing. What skills or mindsets do you think are essential for women who are looking to break into the tech entrepreneurship?
Oh, you have to have the thickest skin.
Mm.
That is one of the biggest downfalls I see too in terms of personality and growth is that analysis paralysis is very real. If you haven't been in the industry, it can be a scary one to jump into because there's so much. Like I don't claim to know everything, but I keep my blinders on so that I stay focused. And I think I have that ability because I've been and seen so much that I don't really care what anyone else thinks. I just have focused on me and my growth. I see that as an issue for a lot of newcomers into tech entrepreneurship is, am I doing that right? Are people judging me, saying something stupid, or am I making the wrong decisions? And they overthink. And then because of that, it causes them to stop in action. It literally stops them. So they don't take the next step because they're afraid. So thick skin is really important. Being able to secure in who you are, as a very personal growth trait of just saying, "I'll give a
Exactly.
Like, frankly, like, you just got to do it. You have to believe in yourself. So you have to have, a strong mental state to be able to be an entrepreneur in general. It's not even in tech. Tech just happens to be harder because it's male dominated, right? The service-based industry and the CPG industry is dominated by women.
Right.
But because we are going against the norm here, I've seen more women being afraid. And my advice to that is like, I call it the fear cloak. Take the fear cloak off and just be a bull with horns and go. Just try.
Exactly. Awesome. Going along with what you're saying, how can companies and investors better support female founders, in your opinion?
It's like I said, it's not just about money. It's about the introductions. It's about meeting people that might be able to advise or give proper, feedback, that are there to support. Money is definitely investors. Like, invest in us, please. Like, we're doing good things, but there are other things that are just as valuable. Say, giving proper feedback in a respective way. a respectful way, actually taking time to hear what we have to say, like turning your ears on and listening that we do see problems, we are trying to make an impact, and then providing feedback. You know, I make these skits on TikTok, and it's so funny. I make these skits, and it's about experiences that women have gone through of male investors being on their phone, they're scrolling, and they're like looking at like, what'd you say? What? And the easiest thing to do is put the phone down,
Right.
turn your ears on, and listen. Provide feedback. That is the best thing you can do. If you're not a good fit, 9 out of 10 times you're not a good fit.
Right.
Give something of value. Help us. Like, that's the way that you can support us.
Exactly. I love that. Being present, being at the moment, and just and take everything all in. I love
100%.
that. I love that. What advice would you give to women aspiring to launch their own, let's say, tech startup? What advice would you give them from your experience?
So outside of the thick skin, I think just try. The barrier to entry is really low. What that means is there are so many tools that we can use that are at our disposal right now to build a tech company. Bubble, Flutterflow, Retool, Adalo, Webflow, Lovable, ChatGPT. All these tools make it possible for you to learn right now. Go to a computer, figure out how to use it, come up with something. You have to learn how to use all these tools, the jargon they use, how they are connected to other infrastructures and integrations. I would pick up just a fun project and say, go test things out to see if you have basically the grit to push through and then solve a real problem, right? So the barrier to entry is super low, which means it's accessible to anyone. But that also means that the competition is so much higher because there's so much junk coming into the ether. So as long as you're solving a real problem for a very specific audience that really needs your solution, I think you're going to be okay as long as you keep adapting and learning and evolving. Outside of that, just get out there. Don't be afraid. Inaction is your enemy.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Nomiki. Perfect. Can you share a story, a successful story of someone who has benefited from your work or from Fiona?
Lauren is one of my staple founders. And I like to talk about Lauren because she went through the Techstars ecosystem, got into the last interview. And to be honest, she was just too early. She would have been a great founder for Techstars. She was just a little too early for it. So they just said, you know what, come back to us next cohort. And when she got that declination, she said, I'm going to join your lab. She joined my lab, guns a-blazing. She came in. She launched her tech in 3 months.
Holy cow.
She went ham. Everything I threw at her, she met with me every week. I gave her homework. And then she went above and beyond. She did all the other things, made the networks, made the connections. Because she did that with a product in market in 3 months, she just won a pitch competition for 10 grand. So she's pivoting. I know. She's pivoting a little bit. Because she realized that MVP taught her so much. So now she's rebuilding a different functionality from the B2B angle. But she is a perfect example of a non-technical founder. She was an employee in the advertising industry. That tells me that anyone can do it as long as you have the right mindset. You make the connections, you do the work, you go above and beyond and win. And she did it. So the goal is at the lab is that you launch your technology, you build revenue from that business, and you grow. And Fiona is going to be the perfect complement to that because then you can do that with thousands of women.
Amazing story. When you think about tech, there's always that fear. Am I techy enough? But this is such an awesome story for viewers to listen and know. You know, you could come from any industry and you can still make an impact.
The world is literally your oyster. Yes.
Exactly. So what's next with Fiona and how can people get involved?
Yeah. So Fiona is in beta right now. We are building a couple new features that are coming within the next 2 weeks. Friday is our official launch party. I'm hosting a LinkedIn Live. I would love to see you all there.
Yeah.
I'm going to basically talk about, where Fiona is rooted, what we're going to do that's different, and talk about the journey and what I plan to build to help more women in technology. My goal is that Fiona becomes a household name. That women recognize Fiona is for a woman in tech that is at this space in their journey, and it becomes a no-brainer to join because we're going to give you everything possible rooted in data. So that's happening Friday. We are publicly launching. We have almost 1,000 women on our wait list.
Holy cow.
I know, it's sort of amazing. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
But that means that I have to have everything really buttoned up. So my goal is to publicly launch, start letting people in 20s and 30s next week, if all goes as planned with my development team. And then we're off to the flipping races, Rejoice. We're off to the races.
You are doing an amazing job. You guys are off the trajectory, and I feel like there's so many good news coming your way, and we're going to stay tuned, listening, watching, Friday joining in the party. So everybody, if you would like to join the party, follow Nomika, and you'll definitely get the insights for that. Any last minute statements, words of advice, encouragement that you would like to offer to our viewers? This is the time to do so. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast.
Thank you, Rejoice. I think the last thing I'll just say is, if you've ever wondered if you can do it, just ask yourself, why not you? Don't get in your head. You can do anything you put your mind to. You're capable of anything as long as you have the right mindset. So when you hear yourself pushing back to say, no, I can't do that, just ask yourself, why not? Why can't I do it? You can do anything. So I'm excited to see more women, more aspiring founders come to fruition, building amazing tools, having an impact on our industry. Thank you so much for having me, Rejoice.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.